Jim Posh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
They say we have mutual friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. It is September 16th, 2024 at about 6:02 p.m. Eddie, would you call the roll?
Cobb,
Present.
Petrus.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Kuda.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Russell. Here. Posh.
Here.
Okay, we have a jam-packed agenda today, so we're going to go right to a discussion with our CDCs. So we have Rhonda Davis Lovejoy here representing Future Heights, and we have Reverend Jimmy Hicks representing Start Right, Inc. And let me just say that I did speak with Executive Director Keisha Allen from HRRC today, and she is unable to be here. But she wanted me on her behalf to say that her relationship with the city and the outline of what the Home Resource Repair Center is doing with the city is pretty set. And, you know, we felt pretty confident that her mission and the commingling of her mission with the city is in line, and that she's pretty satisfied with all of that. So I think what we want to hear from the two of you is, Councilman Cobb, can you just lean back? Is that, maybe just to do like a brief overview of your mission for your organizations, and then what you would like to see as far as your interaction with the city, maybe especially with ARPA funds, but you can certainly go beyond that. Reverend Hicks, you want to start?
Well, I mean, in terms of our mission, it's just, we've been focused on the Caledonia neighborhood, city of Cleveland Heights, to help low and moderate individuals in a number of ways, from our food pantry to our rehab program to our the new home construction program. And so, I think how we have evolved to this point, like I said, during the rehabs through the county land bank, receiving the home from the land bank, that way, and so they never came through the city, but they always received city approval. And so now that door has opened back up, in terms of the rehab program. And so, and also in terms of the properties that the city put out, and I believe the acronyms are RFI, but it's probably close enough. And we were able to, review that with our team and put together some responses back to the city on that. In terms of the new construction project, homes in the community, we were, the biggest thing about that is that the new construction piece, we responded to the city. And so we're partners. We consider ourselves partners with the city of Cleveland Heights. We responded to that, and we were able to get one house built. We were looking forward to the, in terms of the ARPA funds, as you know, you approved $300,000 for new construction and $200,000 for the rehab program. And so, and I'd have to say that, we've gone through a long process, but the process that we've just entered into with Brian and Chris, I think they were straight shooting, letting us know exactly what the city can do, what they can't do. And so came back to the city would like us to use the $500,000 for the rehab program. So we don't have a problem with that, because that's part of what we can do. The great thing about it, again, is that we're partners with the city. And so, again, building new homes was in response to the city. If the city is saying now, we would like you to focus on the free money that we're giving you to get a better bang for the buck by taking care of some of these homes in disrepair, then it's like, great, we want to work with you to do that. And in the same way, we're not forgetting about infill, but we can now, again, get a better bang for the buck, use those funds that come out of the sale of those rehab homes and to be able to refocus and redirect into a infill program. And so, again, you know, in my mindset, it's not asking God to bless what I'm doing. It's do what He's blessing, and we have the blessing to use these 500,000 to rehab homes. That's what we're going to. That's what we're going to do. We're excited. Again, we've been excited about redeveloping the neighborhood and you know, in the Caledonia neighborhood and other areas of Cleveland Heights. And if we have to pivot to do those first and then come back to infill, we're not going to give up on that, but we're just going to build our capacity to be able to then do it. After we do these other homes. So that's pretty much where we are right now. We're excited and waiting on contracts.
And the number of houses, that's all been determined yet or not yet?
No, I mean, again, we know they're there. We haven't had those conversations yet, but
Okay.
it's creep, crawl, walk.
Should we be bringing those numbers to you in terms of the numbers of rehabs and so forth? Because we're in the Future Heights is in a similar position as well, just geared up and ready to go in terms of rehab. So you know our mission statement is basically community-based. We want to be equitable, we want to create affordable housing and so forth, so we need partners to do that. But we definitely want the city to be one of them. So nothing has really changed with that. And we're here more to answer questions that you may have and then we'll ask a few of you as well, because one of the recommendations that we got before, which I think is great, is also obtaining houses not only from the city, but also from the county. So that puts us in a position where when we look at the 500,000, we can actually be in a better position to purchase. And then coming up with a plan to be self-sustaining. So that means perhaps, selling those homes for a little bit higher profit than we have before, so that we can continue to invest in another home and another one and another one. Because, in the past, we basically, I think we got 20 homes done, in terms of renovation and so forth. And then our latest one was a partnership with a local developer, and he did a great job renovating, and then we sold that for a higher price, et cetera. So that puts us in a position where we can, actually think about, like, what is the scope of work gonna really look like? Is it gonna be something that is gonna put us in a position where Future Heights is growing? We're doubling our staff, we're doubling our homes, we're doubling our programs. So we do the crowdsourced conversations, we do leadership training, et cetera. We wanna continue to do those programs, but we want our main focus to be future homes.
Do you still want to do, do you also want to do infill housing, or are you just focusing on rehab?
Actually, we're focusing on rehab because we think that that's the best way to go, but in my expert opinion, which is not expert, I need to hear from those developers or so forth, and even from the city. What is it that our goal is ultimately? And what areas in the city are we focusing on? Is it South Taylor? Is it Noble Road? Is it, whatever the areas? Are we partnering together with HRC, with StartRight, et cetera? Because again, I think I said in one of the previous meetings, we have enough resources in terms of organizations, I believe, to get the job done. We've got enough developers, we have enough people that are interested in seeing the city go forward in specific areas. So just knowing what the city's plan is and where they want to attack first, so that we can say, we can do that, we are not able to do that, or so forth and so on. So it's just, again, being really transparent about how we're going forward. And then Future Heights is all in.
Anything else that either of you see as, outside of housing, for your organizations, where you would like to see us as a partner?
I would say most definitely with crowdsourcing, right? Our community conversations, really understanding from the city's perspective, what do they want to know from the community? What is it, what answers or what concerns does the city residents have that you would like to see them talk about? One of the things that came up as a real important piece to all of the crowdsourcing conversations is how we move that information that we collect during these discussions, how we move that forward to the city without creating a vacuum of, outcries from the community. Rather, perhaps developing a report so that the city could see what constituents are saying, and then decide on how they will want Future Heights or StartRight or anyone else to deal with them, approach them, or if it's, something the administration needs to do, and decide how the administration is going to approach community residents, et cetera. So that's a real important piece for us.
Does Future Heights share those results with city officials?
I don't think they've been shared in a report way, and that's what I'm speaking to,
Okay,
that I
that's what I
believe,
thought
I personally, it needs to happen that way.
Yeah.
I think that through interpersonal conversations, that information is shared, but we like to see it be more formal.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're partnering together, the city is looking for us to provide that information to you, to the council, et cetera, so that that information can be used in the best way possible.
Questions? Oh,
I
sorry.
was gonna say, we're looking forward to working with the administration in the future in terms of the redevelopment of the Noble Nilo Business District. Looking forward to the groundbreaking next month for the TWG project, which would be the initial start of that. And again, working with and sharing ideas with the planning department so that we can get that the Noble Nilo Business District redeveloped and have new ideas about new projects that will build there.
That's gonna be nice.
So are you still focusing that particular aspect of StartRight on Caledonia to Woodview?
Correct.
That's okay.
Correct.
Questions from council members? Okay. Thank you both very much. I really appreciate that. And we look forward to working with you in
Perfect.
these and other areas in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited about the future.
We're all good.
I'll ask our law director and mayor to join us here. We're gonna move on to ARPA update. And we did meet today at 11 a.m. So I've been here a lot today. We spent about, I'd say about an hour and a half going over in a pretty granular way. Director Zampt was here. Do you want to join us as well for this part of the discussion? Because you were kind of the leader of that discussion at 11. And before I ask for any updates from the law department on ARPA, I would just like to say that one of the topics today was reallocation of ARPA funds, particularly and possibly more with council-generated ideas. And I just want to make sure that we all know that if and when that happens, that although everybody's welcome to say, hey, I think this would be a great idea, nothing's automatic, that all reallocations will be done. And Mr. Law Director, please correct me if I'm wrong, but all reallocations have to be done in legislative form and obviously have to have a majority vote.
I think that's correct, other than with regard to third-party contracts that are carved out in the legislation.
Like,
Already committed to third-party nonprofits, for example. Contract impairment.
okay. But I'm talking about funds that become, in a sense, uncommitted.
Yes.
Okay. So any updates from our partner law firm that's now, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting.
Bricker.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
Yeah, Bricker.
No.
Just,
I mean, we're in touch with them on a regular basis, getting feedback on the various questions that are sent to them to advance the projects that we discussed this morning and to continue to, inform the internal decision-making
okay.
recommendations, but that's it.
Director Zampt, could you just give us and the people listening a summary of what we spoke about this morning?
Sure, and we certainly encourage people to watch the video. It was recorded, but we really focused on a couple of things. The first one is we gave an update on the progress that was made on the things we spoke about at the last work session, which was September 3rd. And that was mostly a lot of the administrative work in getting things like RFPs and one-page explainers ready so that the projects and the programs were on paper. The second thing we spoke about was some of our nonprofit housing projects. So the two CDCs that were here earlier, giving an update that we've made a lot of progress with them, and they indicated just a few minutes ago that the focus is going to be on rehab. So we're working on those agreements. There was a lengthy discussion about the city projects. The council projects, and those are 4 projects. Most of them are actually related to parks, but it's the Shipley Containment Project, the Park Enhancement Project, and the Tiny Homes Project, and then Safety/Blue Police Blue Lighting Project. And just sort of seeing where council was on those, if they wanted to continue those. And if not, could those funds be reallocated to other projects? And so there was a lot of discussion around that. And some of the projects were going to be going for serving the same purpose. And then we touched on the revenue replacement, a couple of different ways we could approach that with a lead into reallocations, and hopefully at our next work session, which is on the 30th?
26th.
I forget.
Nice try.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that, and so trying to come up with a final plan where we're all on the same page and game plan on that date so that we can move forward and meet our internal and then federal deadlines.
There's one thing that I want everybody to understand, and then when we were having our meetings last year in 2023 and getting the allocations set up, in my mind, I thought that was all there was to it. But what we've learned from our new consultants is we have to have contracts in place. So that's something that the administration is working on as well by the end of the year.
Okay, any other questions? All right, very good, thank you both. Now we'll move on to legislative review. We have quite a few consideration for adoptions. The first one is a resolution, I'm on 176/2024, resolution authorizing the mayor to submit a joint application with the city of East Cleveland to the Northeastern Ohio Area-wide Coordinating Agency, also known as NOACA, for a grant under the Transportation for Livable Communities Initiative. I didn't certainly have any questions on this. Anybody? Yes.
I'm just happy to see it
Oh my
happened,
God, yes.
that East Cleveland came back and you're working with them again, so.
Someone from East Cleveland is here.
Oh,
Someone
Yeah,
from East
What
Cleveland
it
is here.
is, we have a representative from East Cleveland to show support, and then we'll do the same tomorrow night when it's on their agenda, but just to show that the cities are working together on this important project.
that's great. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so I know that appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight.
Can you come to the table? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
You can say your name.
Yeah, my name is Josh Slaga. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I know East Cleveland is excited about joining the project this year. I know the mayor and the administration have supported the project since last year. There was a council committee meeting on Thursday night of last week in which the project was discussed. It was received very favorably. It's on the agenda for tomorrow's council meeting. It's expected to pass under emergency. So I know the city's on board this year, looking forward to move this project forward. And it's really going to fit with the greater goal that they're really looking at throughout East Cleveland of improving safety on the roadways, looking to support multimodal transportation. And this is going to be, I think even one of 2 TLCI implementation grants through NOACA that they're looking at doing, to showing their greater, commitment to improving the city's infrastructure.
Very good. I'm very pleased. Okay, thank you. Second resolution is 177, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with American Builders. So this is a lead abatement contract for 989 Oxford Road, a 12-unit apartment building. Is that the one that was, I'm actually not looking at the legislation, that was one that was about 120,000, if I'm not mistaken.
109.
109, thank you.
Council Kudo?
Yes.
I would like to just comment that the legislation we're looking at tonight, 177, 178, 179-2024, these three pieces of legislation are welcomed. It's great to see the city working with the property owners, the county board of health, and the certified lead abatement contractors to make these buildings safe, and it's just the beginning. So, and to be able to take advantage of those grants from the board of health, to help the board of health out so they don't have to return those funds, and that we can take advantage of it for our property owners. It's just a pleasure to read those pieces.
All right, 178 is same thing, lead abatement. That's with Omega Brothers LLC. And this is for a 2-unit house on Lee Road, 1681 and 1683 Lee Road. Any questions about that? 179 is an agreement with American Builders. And this is for 2201, lead abatement for 2201 North Taylor Road, 6-unit mixed-use building. Is this the one?
Yes.
Okay, you know which one I'm thinking of. It's like the only commercial building, if I'm not mistaken, on north of Monticello. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, I know which one that is. Okay, no questions there. 180, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an amendment to an agreement with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health that funds lead remediation work. Any questions about that? Okay, 181, a resolution encouraging Heights Libraries to work toward a solution that transfers ownership of the Peace Campus building at 2843 Washington Boulevard to Coventry Peace, Inc. Hey, hands. Go ahead, start with.
Just to share with everyone, as I think that everyone already knows, I drafted this with Councilman Cobb. And so in it, I tried to express my deep appreciation for the work that's done for our community by both Heights Library and the Coventry Peace Campus tenants. And so I hope that we can earn everyone's support for this evening.
Okay, Councilman Bosch.
I have a statement to read. This is a well-meaning resolution being offered with the intent to support and help our community, but passing this resolution isn't going to change any of the facts or help the library board do what the resolution asks for, which is transfer the property to the non-profit nonprofit run by the tenants. I'm going to ask council to take another approach that I feel is more realistic to save the building and hopefully make that building an anchor for the arts in our community. The first step is to move this item to council committee so we can look at solutions together with the library board and the nonprofit. I also feel our city administration has a role in this too. This is how I feel we can best use our leadership to support the community. If we pass this resolution, I want to remind everybody we've got a bunch of challenges. Pass this resolution today as written. This is public property and state law is very clear in how it can or cannot be, how a building can or cannot be transferred. The last time I checked, the $1 transfer between taxing authorities would not apply in this case. The public is going to question why a building valued at $5 million is going to be given to a private entity. The property has deed restrictions from Grand Deming and also, I believe, deed restrictions from the school district. And since this just came out this weekend, I think we really need to look at those, either find ways of getting around them or work together to get this resolved. The building under the library has a property tax exemption. To keep that exemption, everybody in that building must also be tax exempt. And that's something we need to look at and confirm. Anyone taking over or purchasing a building like Coventry will need significant resources in excess of 6 figures to keep that building private and public and in good shape. There's many challenges in relevant history, and I'm just focusing today on the here and now, but approving this tonight without further study with this council, knowing all these other challenges, I think is a mistake. Again, I don't wanna see the building torn down. I wanna see a resolution to make this an arts resolution and an anchor for the community. But until we work together, I don't think that's gonna happen. This library board's gonna look at this, they already have their opinions. Our system wouldn't be necessary and it would probably be demoed, and I don't think we wanna do that.
So, Council, I'll tell you what, I think we need to address both, what both of you said, but Councilman Maddox, why don't you go next and then we'll.
Couple of things. I'm not for or against this. I thought that this was gonna move to a committee for discussion. So I was surprised when I heard that this sounded like something we were gonna try to push through tonight. I knew that this was being worked on and I have meetings scheduled with people to discuss this. I had no idea that there was any plan to move anything forward. I had meetings scheduled with both members of the library board, members of the library staff to get further feedback on this, and I thought that we were meeting with them as well. I know we met with Coventry Peace, but we didn't meet with anyone else, and so I was still working through that feedback, so I was trying to figure that out. I also, and I'm not quite sure if maybe it's just because it was written, that's the reason why my other concern was that my name was on it, because I got a ton of phone calls today about something that I had nothing to do with putting together and had multiple questions about, and I was still working through. And so that's why I didn't know, is this something that is going to committee? Is this something that expectations the majority of council was going to not discuss any further than this? Because I was still trying to flesh this out. I was even having discussions with some folks in the nonprofit, and I had a list of questions for folks, but it sounds like we don't, there's no time now. So I guess that's my question. I need a clarifying question, I guess, is this going to committee or is this something that's going straight to council to meet tonight to go for a vote?
I don't want to assume anything, but Councilman Petrus, did you write, I know you drafted this. Were you thinking it needed to happen now? I mean, you tell us what you were thinking.
Yeah, so that
First, the
was
timing.
my intention when I drafted it. And initially, Councilman Cobb and I were the only folks who had our names on here, and then we passed it along to the law department, and it was included in the packet. I'm not sure at what point.
I sent an email to you guys this afternoon. That was my bad
Oh, I'm sorry.
during the meeting.
You did.
During the meeting, I thought that I heard to add everyone and if they wanted to be removed to let me know, and I didn't hear from anyone to remove them. So that was why everyone was on there. That is my
Okay, so that's something that we could easily clarify.
Yes.
I think that it's certainly worth having additional conversations, but I don't see these things as mutually exclusive. I think that it is okay for us to vote on this as it was introduced, and then also continue the conversations. I hope that this is something that will spur more conversations, but I don't think that delaying this is necessarily the right thing to do.
Go ahead.
I just don't see how it's prudent to move forward and vote on something without having all of the necessary information. Like having a discussion with members of the library board or the library staff to have any feedback after the fact really doesn't add any weight to any feedback that they might get either way. I just don't like the appearance of that. I think if something should be completely discussed and fleshed out before it goes to a vote, that way at least all the information is out to the public about why we're making these decisions, because it maybe the feelings about whatever's written here in this legislation would change if there's other feedback. I'm not saying that it would. I'm just saying that I think we owe it to all parties to really hear and flesh out what's happening here before something goes to a vote.
Councilman Petrus.
Yeah, I would just say that, this resolution recognizes the good work of both of the parties that are involved with this issue. And we are merely asking that they get to, or at least I am merely asking that they get together and work it out themselves. I'm not necessarily looking to, intervene in it. I'm merely looking to encourage them to work towards the solution that the overwhelming majority of folks have expressed.
Councilman Posh.
Well, I mean, the problem, this is sort of like, okay, we don't have any authority in this. I mean, we're leaders. So looking at this and how we can contribute as a city, I think makes sense. But this is not in our lane. And there's a lot of information, and with all due respect, I was president of the school board when we transferred that property to $1, okay? I still have questions, and which I've labeled some here today. If we don't have the opportunity to flush these out, make sure this is legal, I think we have to, I can't vote for this unless I'm confident that what we're telling the library board to do is legal, okay?
Just on that point, I'm not telling the library board to sell it for $1. If that's a point of concern for them, then they should sit down with the tenants and negotiate an agreement. That's the way to bridge a divide here. And so, please, if you propose something different, then by all means, that's not included in the resolution.
Let's get some other people in Cobb.
Sure.
Councilman Cobb.
It was our intent just to show support and ask the library to work with these folks to reach a resolution of this situation. I think the sense of urgency that we felt is that we have heard that at the next library board meeting, there was gonna be a vote to demolish this building, which I don't believe anyone, no, I won't say that. I'll just speak for myself and Councilmember Petrus, don't want the building torn down. And that would be the worst thing that would happen. But I keep hearing that is where this library board is going with that. And I do think that we do have the right to speak on this subject as elected officials, whereas none of these library board members are elected officials. And I hear what you're saying about the legalities and the economics, and we're not asking the library board to break any laws and I'm sure that they wouldn't do anything improper. But from what I am hearing from both sides is that that the library board it's got its position, it's entrenched. They don't believe that there's any way that the nonprofits in that building can make this financially viable. On the other hand, the tenants in there say the opposite. Do we know whether the library board is willing to refrain from acting on this at their next meeting if we don't vote on this tonight? Do you know? Do we have a commitment from them?
I don't know what they're gonna do. Councilman Larson, do you wanna weigh in on this? You don't have to.
Well, Mayor Saranac.
Well, I wanna get to finish this part of it up
Thank you.
first.
I've been vacillating all day today and we keep getting more information from both entities. And they're all believable and I'm getting more and more confused. So I lean towards not voting on it at first reading this evening.
Okay,
Because they're both groups of people I respect, admire, and want them to figure this out so that we can move forward.
Councilman Posh.
Whether we vote on this yes or no, the library board is gonna walk. I mean, if we vote yes on this and we just walk away from it and just say, hey, we're not gonna be further involved in this, they may go ahead and demo the building, and that's probably the path that they're gonna take. This suggestion to put it in committee is not gonna stall the action, but I would certainly hope that the library board members would realize that we're offering an olive branch, making sure that everybody understands their decision-making process. And I gotta tell you, it seems to me that if this is gonna be an anchor tenant, it's gonna be an arts organization, it certainly seems to me that we need to get our Arts Commission involved in this. It's obvious that this nonprofit currently is gonna need resources. They don't have enough resources to maintain the building. Even the pro forma, $15,000 a year to maintain a $5 million business or $5 million building is not enough. And I think that's, I know the library just put somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 work on a roof because they were afraid it was gonna collapse. We've had a lot of structural problems. I don't wanna put the tenants in a position where it's untenantable, if you know what I mean. That's why I think it makes sense for us all to sit together, and I don't see any harm in waiting.
I just wanna say something quickly and then we'll go to the mayor. I think what the tenants are asking for is advocacy, and I think that's what we're trying to do. Perhaps this is a little bit specific. I'm talking about the resolution. If the resolution said, for instance, and this is with all respect to both parties involved, that it said instead of saying transfer to Coventry Peace Inc., it just said to keep it a viable home for the arts and community organizations, talking about in the title. And then instead of the last whereas clause where it says to transfer ownership of the Coventry Peace campus from Heights Libraries to Coventry Peace Inc. Again, viable home for the arts community organization. I mean, yeah, I would love for Coventry Peace Inc. to be the receiver of this, but I don't know that if that's what we're trying to say, that it ought to go here. I think what we're trying to advocate for, please, I'm putting words in your mouth, you can shoot me down, is that it ought not to be demolished and it ought to stay a home for the arts and community organizations. And if we make that modification, basically then we're just saying we hope it remains in some kind of similar form that it is now. And we're not so specific as to say it ought to go to this particular organization.
I think that's a great option, but I would prefer to have that conversation in committee.
I understand that that's a little flippant.
I'd be willing to accept an amendment that would modify this to say something like preserve the building at that address as a hub for arts and culture. I would be willing to do something like that, assuming that we're still able to vote on it tonight. Because I think that it's important that we either vote yes or no on it today.
Councilman?
It just for clarity, before I say what I want to say, is the sense of urgency because of the decision they may be making? Is that why? Is that
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because just for me, it isn't just about this piece of legislation. It's just making sure that everything that we have going through is fleshed out. I know just a couple of months ago we talked about having that agreement and putting things through committee and making sure that they're fleshed out. I don't like how it feels or how it looks. It just feels rushed and pushed, especially considering we've had one side of that conversation at the table, but not the other. And I don't even know if anyone invited it. And I'm not saying it would sway anything. I'm just saying for the public, I think it should be clear that any decision that we make or anything that we put out, we could at least flat-footed say that we invited up parties to the table and we had the conversation with everyone connected. It wasn't one-sided. But again, I was under the impression that this is something that we would continue to discuss. That's why I scheduled those meetings. I really wanted to get a sense of what was going on in terms of with the library staff and the library board. Both were sensing on their end to get some clarifying questions. And I feel like I'm being asked to make a decision without having those questions answered. And that's problematic for me. In this case, and for any piece of legislation, I just think that something like this really needs to be fleshed out in a committee before we make any clarifying decisions. So for me tonight, just respectfully, I don't see how an amendment really offers that and shines a lot of light in terms of people who may not understand exactly what's happening with this in the community. I think it's important that we get those other sides of the table so that any decision is made, at least the public has something they can go back to hear both sides. And I don't think we've made that available right now.
Well, a couple of quick things. We did get some pretty detailed information from library trustees and I understand that wasn't discussed at the table, but I have to say it was very detailed and it was from several trustees with what I consider to be a lot of information. I'm not saying you ought to be satisfied. Secondly, I don't think this is an attempt to create a policy to rush through something. I think it's the circumstances that are dictating this. And when we did have that conversation a couple of months ago, we did say that it doesn't really apply to resolutions, which we kind of routinely pass. Advocacy resolutions, we do routinely pass on first reading. So I want to get to Councilman Petrus, and then I'm sorry, the mayor's been waiting.
Just real quick. So yes, earlier this year we passed that process. We unanimously agreed that something could either be brought up in committee of the whole or an individual committee. And as Council President Guda said, there was that caveat that doesn't apply to resolutions. And then also looking at tonight's agenda, there are 22 instances where there's an emergency measure. So, I feel perfectly comfortable voting on this tonight.
All right, Mayor, Mr. Mayor?
So I think in part you probably already expressed some of the message that I was going to offer, and that would be to reduce the specificity in the recommendation. I think this particular resolution, provides a specific prescription for this, and that's not necessarily, I wouldn't know, necessarily a viable prescription to solve this issue. And so I thought that what you mentioned was appropriate, that the council could consider amending this recommendation to make it a little bit more vague and open to possibility, while keeping sort of a general goal, if the council has a general goal that they all agree on, or at least a majority of council has a goal that they all agree on. And I don't know, obviously, if two of you are not in favor of voting on this tonight, but the other 5 are interested in moving it forward, then you can pass it as you see fit, as an emergency resolution and go on about your day. If there's a concern that the library board is planning on voting at their next meeting, is that the 23rd?
Yes.
I just a cursory look, I haven't seen any agendas posted with this on them. I would like to know, does anybody have, like, where's the rumor coming from that they're expecting to vote on this, on the demolition at the next meeting?
Well, I don't know about the demolition. I know that in the meeting last Monday, they said that they were going to go into executive session on the 23rd to speak about this. I mean, of course, there's no real guarantee or crystal ball that they're gonna come out and vote, but, I think they're headed towards making a decision. I think that was very clear from the detailed notes I read. I actually did attend the meeting, but I was there an hour and a half, and I ended up leaving before they actually got into it, but I read the transcript of the meeting, and it was pretty pointed.
The only other thing that I might offer that might help the council sort of address maybe not all of the needs of council members, but the possibility is, since there's a special committee of the whole meeting next Monday at 4, I believe I saw that on my calendar. And that would be, I presume, in advance of the library board meeting, I assume likely in the evening, that you might be able to hold some sort of special council meeting to consider this again before their vote and transmit it, but in the interim, maybe call a special committee meeting or something like that to have a conversation and maybe invite members of the library board or the staff, if that's sort of the perspective that some people feel is missing. I don't know what conversations council members had with all of the involved players, but just as a thought, it's something that you could potentially, if you wanted to have another meeting, provide that opportunity for more public discussion of this particular resolution and its phrasing before pulling the trigger on it. But that's just I'm just offering that as a possibility, not advocating for it as a path.
Do you have a position you'd like to advocate for?
I do not.
Okay. So that's what we've got in front of us right now. Do we want to come up with amendment language tonight and move it forward? Do we want to discuss that at another meeting? And in between now and then, have some kind of hearing? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting hearing, I'm saying just send it to committee. So I don't think there needs to be a hearing, but I do think though that we need to get all the parties together. We need to get some lawyers together and see what's doable and what's not doable. And I think the most important thing is, how can we contribute to a solution? Because this is not in our lane.
But when you say a committee, I mean, it's in committee of the whole. I mean, this is a resolution that involves, it's not, I don't think it's gonna go to anybody's.
I don't care what committee it is.
Right.
We just got notice of this
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, as much as I've tried to do a bunch of research in the meantime and spoke to a lot of parties. I don't have enough
Okay,
to vote on.
So you're not for amending it here and then voting today?
I am not for that.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
I'd be happy to pull it up on my laptop if people are okay with softening the language to say something like preserve it as a hub for the arts and culture. I could make those changes and share it. I think that it's important that we do vote on this tonight, even if that's an amended version. The library board will likely vote on the 23rd. I think that it's important that we have it in advance of then. And I'm not sure that I'm definitely not suggesting that we necessarily become a mediator, as I sort of inferred that Councilman Posh might be suggesting. I would like for the two parties to come together and find a resolution of their own. But voting on this doesn't preclude us from continuing conversations with folks in the library, so.
Okay, so Council Vice President, how would you like to move forward?
Well, I would like to see it softened, not so direct. And I think Posh and Mr. Maddox have some points when they're talking about having the library actually, or someone from the library come and speak to us as well. And I think we could do that prior to the library voting on the 23rd.
Okay. Councilwoman Larson?
You know I don't like to be rushed into anything.
I'm just asking, I'm not rushing.
I would like to see this language softened if we're gonna do resolution, but I would like to have a special committee meeting of whichever it's called to discuss this further.
I think we'd have to do it in committee of the whole, you know, I don't see a 3-person committee covering this.
But I would like to do it prior to,
Understood.
so it's making sure that the vote.
Well, that gives us, if we're gonna have a special meeting, that it's gotta be next Monday.
I think we're scheduled for next Monday.
We are, interviews with, the mayor's appointments at 4, finance committee at 5, is that still on?
Mhm.
Can we do a special committee, committee of the whole, and a special council meeting to take a vote on this next
Well, we
month?
could, it would be the day that the library board is gonna meet. I can't say vote, but meet.
Clearly, the library board knows, I think maybe how at least 3 or 4 of us feel about it. So the impact is there already from our merely having it on the agenda and discussing it. But to give the force of the resolution for whatever it's worth, we would have the opportunity to vote on it and maybe change a couple of council members' minds that are reluctant to vote on it as it is now.
Councilman Maddox, are you okay with speaking on this, reintroducing this a week from today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Discussion.
You obviously said you are.
Well, I'm not here next week.
Oh,
And I think what you would do is you would meet. I don't have to, you guys can make whatever decision you guys need to make with or without. If someone's absent, of course, I'd like to be there, I'd like to be part of it.
well, how about this? Could you, let's just say, just because this is Councilman Petrus's legislation, he wrote the author. If he comes up with an amended version, you could look at it and if you wanna
Absolutely.
say,
I
if you
mean-
want a statement to be read on your behalf
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
something, I'd be,
But I think the issue here is if we're collaborating and we're gonna have a meeting, we're gonna wanna make sure that we've got some representatives from Coventry Peace. We're gonna wanna make sure we've got representatives from the library, and we could ask them to do it at another date. I mean, they've been sitting on this building since 2018, okay?
Yeah.
And they basically have given attendance to the end of the year. It's not necessarily something that I believe is gonna be happening overnight. This is
all right, Councilman Petrus, and then we gotta move on.
I think that if we were to put this off, again, my preference is that it be voted on tonight. But if the consensus were that we wait until next Monday. I think it's important that two things are possible. One, we are aware from emails that we've received that community members are planning to attend this evening's meeting in anticipation that this is going to be voted on. So I absolutely think that people should have the right to talk at the next meeting. Also, I think that it's important that we, if it's a committee of the
No,
whole.
you're right, special meetings, unless we say so, do not have public input. And I'll commit to that.
Yep.
And
then also, I think that it's important that the meeting be scheduled such that we could go to the meeting. Because, for example, I was planning to attend that meeting, anticipating that we would be done in time for that. But now, if we are loading up that agenda with this, then, we may not. So I think that that's another important consideration.
Yeah, that one I don't know how to solve right in this moment.
Do they have a morning meeting?
Because we want the public to come to it.
Oh, that's right. I can zoom in.
Well, I'm just saying, we've got a 5 to 6 p.m. meeting for finance committee, so it would be at 6 p.m. and their meeting is at 6:30, so that's probably not really gonna happen. Just saying,
And their meeting's at 6:30.
exactly, so.
Can you move yours up?
Can we choose something other than Monday?
You and I are the ones that are
I was
with
gonna
the
say.
meeting, so should we be a little flexible and
I was gonna ask you for a couple things, either move it up or maybe switch the meetings around so that finance is
so
after.
you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So Anthony and I are the only ones, cause Jim's gonna be gone, excuse me.
Oh, right.
Well, I will say I have to make sure that the people who we are interviewing can go 5 instead of 4.
That's true.
So
And that, yeah.
I'd have to check.
Oh, I was talking about our finance committee meeting.
Well,
Right, but we're talking about switching those around so that the finance is 4 to 5 and then
And that
the
does get me
committee of the whole
folks who are
be-
working a job, trying to come in for it, that is think about that, yeah, that's gonna be a
But-
problem.
I can check.
all right, well, for the moment, we're gonna have to make a contingent on how we work this out.
Does does finance have to be in at night? I don't know, but
I was trying to be accommodating for everybody and that's why
Oh.
they send out the doodle poll, so
right.
if you wanna do it, we need to get going on that too as well, to talk about the queries with the data we wanna analyze, so I don't know, if you got any ideas, Anthony?
This reminds me of when we were trying to organize the meeting at 11. Go ahead.
I think I think if you sort of read the emails that we received from library board members, they have essentially asked to be included in our process. And I can't speak for them, but I think if we ask them to participate, delay anything that they're gonna delay, or if they could, to accommodate our schedule in the spirit of what we call collaboratively and helping them through this in any way we can. Keep in mind, they're the decision makers. We're not the decision makers. It's not something in our lane. I mean, I gotta think there's something that we can do to help find a resolution from pointing in a different
I
direction.
mean, that's something I'm perfectly willing to try to do, is just let them know that, that would be appreciated because we do wanna make a statement, evidently,
But you would invite them
but
to
yeah,
the table
but
as well.
we wanna invite them to the table first. And just see if they'd be willing to at least, if they were thinking about making a decision on the 23rd, could we have this conversation first? It's really up to them as to what they wanna do.
Just a quick question,
Yeah.
has University Heights, are they working on anything like this as well? Have they had any dialogue on that?
I don't know.
I was just curious.
It's
The only reason I'm asking.
definitely something worth asking, but I don't do.
So let's say, because if they were having conversations or had questions, it sounds more like a joint meeting anyway, just flesh
And
it
that
out.
begs the question, and this is something I was gonna actually say in my president's report, but it does beg the question of why we don't have the joint meetings. I mean, if this wasn't the most ripe issue for the two cities, the library board and the school board to be at the table like we have before, I mean, this is definitely one of those instances where I think a conversation with the four entities at the table would go a long way.
That's why I was wondering, I didn't know if anyone had spoken to the mayor or council over there and or what that looked like, or if they had gotten any additional feedback, because it absolutely impacts their community as well. So I was just wondering.
I mean, I brought it up to the school board president about reigniting those meetings, but
I was just wondering specifically if they had any feedback for this particular, but okay.
no. So we're gonna have to, as far as working out a time for a committee of the whole meeting, we're gonna have to check the schedules of several people, and I guess we'll,
Well, if you can get them to postpone their meeting,
I mean, I can,
that would help.
That would, but
I mean, but I certainly would plead the case, but it's, totally in there.
I would like to say that if they're willing to postpone their meeting, I personally would be more flexible. That, seems like a good faith effort. But if they want to go ahead with it, I will personally call for a special meeting in advance of then, so that we can vote on this in advance of their meeting.
I hope you don't mind if I move on, but I'm looking at what else is left and what's left on the agenda, and it's a lot. 182 is a resolution providing for a contribution of up to $4,000 to support the Happy 5K run. Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Is this for the after party?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
And the idea basically is that that would be an expense that might take away from the scholarship fund or other expenses for, who has their hand up? Yeah, go ahead.
I just turned around. I believe the email we got from Adam was 5,000 as opposed to 4,000. But did I just hear you're reserving 1,000 for a scholarship fund? I didn't hear anything.
No, that wasn't it. I was just saying that the 5K run is a fundraiser that goes to a scholarship fund. Do I have that right?
Cleveland Heights Youth Scholarship Fund.
Yeah. So, this was in a way, in essence, trying to support that as well.
I thought the ask was 5,000 as opposed to 4,000, and this is written as 4,000.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Councilman.
Oh, do you want me to?
Yes.
I mean, so I am a part of the volunteer planning group. I was a part of it before joining council, and the folks who are part of it were kind enough to allow me to still be a part of it after being elected. So I will have to recuse myself from this. And so there were a number of different amounts, but it sounds like 4,000 is appropriate, would sufficiently cover the expenses.
Were there any line item budgets prepared? Line item budget?
Yes, Melody.
Yes. It was 40, I want to say, was it 4,300?
Right now, it's about $4,400.
4,400.
Yeah, and then I think you'd be safer off moving that number up, since they're already over that $4,000, just to make sure that that's just a very tight buffer. But that's just me, and I'd be comfortable with that.
Who wrote this legislation? I mean, I didn't. No, I meant who asked you to write it out?
Councilman Petrus and.
Yeah, I drafted up like a memo.
Okay.
And if I just wanted to make a quick comment on Councilman Petrus's recusal, I think there's an arguable basis or reasonable basis to recuse. I don't think it's probably technically required because of the volunteer status, the fact that this is a city activity in any event. But if a council person is recusing from a matter, it means you don't discuss it either. It's not just voting. So just as this goes forward and people are thinking about things they want to say.
Do you have a recommendation on whether I recuse myself?
I mean, my understanding is that this is a city fund.
It is.
And so the city's contribution goes really to the benefit of the city's fund. The CID would only be reimbursed. You're not an employee of the CID, you're a volunteer in connection with this effort. So I don't think that it's necessary that you recuse.
The ship has sailed on that anyway, I think.
Yeah, I just started.
Except for voting.
But he still wants to know.
Yeah.
Proper. So,
It's spelled for member cop too?
Well,
raising it to $4,400, is that Is that an amendment that we're willing to do, Councilman?
Well, he wrote it, I was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess I would be okay with 45. I just wanna make sure that we're not,
Squeezing them.
yeah, it's just really tight. And so that's why the
Okay,
5.
45, I mean, I was just,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask if he could.
When we spoke a few weeks ago about the opportunity to potentially get some funds to help with this, because right now there's zero funds to provide a program for the after party. At the time, the budget was $2,200, but it was relatively early on. As it stands now with what's being put together, it's about $4,400. The ask was for a not to exceed $5,000, paying the actual bills being at $44 now. We're grateful for whatever funds we get, and we'll build the programming around whatever we receive, so thank you for the consideration.
With that, I definitely feel more comfortable with 5, because it sounds like there still may be some unexpected expenditures there that there may not be any money to cover after, because there's no budget outside of that. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, if we don't have the funds, we either wouldn't do it, or then we would say, let's carve some money out that would go to the scholarship fund to fund that. We're just trying to provide the best programming for the community in this party. We're trying to do.
I strongly support the 5 now.
okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, I just wanted to mention that if you look at the end of section 1, it also requires that in order for the CID to receive reimbursement, it has to submit a written request with reasonable evidence of the expenses incurred. So, you know, if 5,000 is authorized, but only 4,300 is ultimately, spent and requested, this allows for that.
That's what
Councilman
I was-
Larson?
Going forward, I'm okay with the 5,000 max, but can we get a report as a debrief afterwards to say how many people did you see, how many people enjoyed it, what, did you have a lot of leftovers, so that we can have an idea, because I imagine you would ask for it again next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna take up too much time, but I think that'd be a great idea. It's been very much a bootstrap
Yeah.
operation now, and it's been great in many ways. All the funds go to the scholarship fund.
Yeah.
So
Very
we're incented to have more revenue.
Is this something that we should just be working into expectation every year so that they don't have to continue to do this? Like, because I know we're having budget conversations now, because my next question was how, so you guys have been coming to us every year doing for this
No,
request?
no.
So
This is the first time,
Okay.
and that's why, yeah.
Okay,
This is the first year there's the after party,
got it.
but there were no funds built in the budget. And so we're scrambling to try to find money to, otherwise it'd be an empty closed street.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have an idea how much is in the scholarship fund as of today?
This run is raised, as of today, over $80,000, the scholarship fund. I've been told that this run provides about 90% of the monies in that fund. I don't know if that's true or not.
It does. It does.
So, and I think,
So do you know what's currently in the fund?
I don't know what's in the actual fund itself, I just know what the race is raised.
Is there a way to find out?
I can get you that data.
Okay.
There's also, just FYI for council members, we're working on a project to actually determine the origin of this particular fund, because the records have not been simple or easy to find. So there's some potential adjustment that we would like to make to this fund. And so we're working through what the actual requirements are of this fund so that we can go the right way in suggesting some improvements, just so you know.
President Kudo,
Yes.
when you're looking at that data, can you please give a couple of years back in terms of how many scholarships were awarded or how much money went out for scholarships? That'd be very helpful.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
I don't wanna overcommit,
Okay.
especially related to record keeping from the previous administration, but I'll do what I can.
Thank you.
I know the Parks and Recs Advisory Board has been asking for that for a while because they wanted to do something with some legislation around it. But the records were kind of difficult, so whatever you can find, it would be appreciative.
I'm working on it.
If you can get whatever the total is now, and then this 80 would be added to that, correct?
The 80 is total.
Yes, the total that
My
they've
understanding
raised.
is, as of today, there's been historically about $70,000 raised that's in the scholarship fund or went to. And then this year already, we're over $11,000 committed, plus the revenue from the run that will go to the scholarship, so.
We have the exact number, I'll get you the exact number, but the sort of how it can be adjusted and how it can be used is something that we're trying to track down.
Yeah.
It's been used in a particular kind of way through a particular process, but we're not actually sure the origin of that process or the actual requirements of the use of that fund.
Director Hannah, do we need a motion to change it to 5, or do we just do the amendment out there?
Yeah, I would just do it out there.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr.
all right. Oh, yes, yeah.
For clarification, so are we going to pull the Coventry Peace Campus resolution from tonight's agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Just have it on first reading.
Yeah, we're just, yeah, probably
Okay.
first reading, that's what I was.
But folks who attend will still obviously be able to speak
Oh,
to it.
it's on the agenda, yeah. Yeah. So for first readings only, we have 183, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an engagement letter with the law firm Singerman Mills Vesberg and Holtz to provide legal counsel for Councilmember Posh and declaring, okay, I'll have to read the rest of that. So that's first reading only. Any discussion there? Yeah, you don't wanna go into that closet.
Where you wanna go?
And, yeah. That's okay. And, oh, yes.
For that particular resolution that I'm introducing, because it's a first reading only, I'm just gonna wait until if this is even needed, which we'll find out, I
Right.
believe, in 2 weeks' time.
Right.
I've been speaking with Mike Unger, the law firm representing 4 council members, and he's given me some indication that maybe that investigation may get pulled, maybe it may not.
If there's a resolution.
If there's a resolution, I certainly don't need legal.
So do you wanna table this, or you're just saying,
No, first reading,
okay.
and then
Got it.
if it's necessary, I can give people more context about why I want it.
Okay, and thank you for that. And then there's a consent agenda with 3 items on it. 184 is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, 185 is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and 186 is National Coming Out Day. Anything there? Okay. And that concludes legislative review. Director Zamp, do you wanna come up and do an update on citywide development projects? I think we were talking about TWG, Cedarly Meadowbrook, WXZ, and other alphabetic.
Yes. And I know you have.
Need a flood service.
I'm fine. We have 15 minutes on here, I'll only take up 2 minutes of your time, so
Oh,
quick update on Taylor Tudor Rehab, which is WXV. There have been meetings throughout the summer with the project team, including our public works department, the building department, fire, to talk mostly about how the project's gonna be staged and if the sidewalks / the parking spaces need to be essentially closed off. So all the plans have been approved and essentially we're just waiting for payment and then those plans can be issued and the construction can get started. So that one is really on its way.
and real quickly, is that just the west side of the street?
That's just the west side of the street. The
Okay.
east side of the street, WXE has reached out. They want to start having those discussions this week, so I think we have a meeting scheduled or to be scheduled shortly. Nobility Court, which is TWG, they've submitted their plans for review. And it's really just with the fire review right now, so all it's through zoning, it's through planning. They also have submitted a lot re-subdivision to the county. I don't know if you remember, but they have to do some re-subdividing of the lands. So when the fire review is done and the lot subdivision approved by the county, then the permits can be issued and then we would also have to transfer the property from the city developer. And then to Meadowbrook, everybody knows that project is under construction. And according to our owner's rep, the Meadowbrook building is on track for completion and turnover in December of this year.
And then the Cedar Frontage building is on track for mid-2025.
Okay. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Lee Road part of it looks close.
Very
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
devices?
Yeah. Yes,
Director Zan, can you tell me as far as the garage there? Not, a lot of the businesses, especially the one right behind, in front of the garage, has been complaining about, they don't believe that it's gonna be enough parking and where people are gonna park for the businesses if you have only one parking garage for the new buildings. Do you know anything about?
That has been a long-standing concern, and if you all remember, there was a parking and traffic study done. So there's an acknowledgement in that the garage itself isn't the only place where people could and should park, that there is available parking in the area. And there's some ways that we can also increase that availability on street parking. So it's a bigger conversation, not just the garage, but something that I think the city recognizes.
And just curious, I don't know if TWG realized there's a Noble Court on Noble Road? Okay,
what is that?
it's a street.
Oh, the street Noble Court,
Court,
not a,
yeah.
I thought it was a
It's
business.
with Nobility Court,
Yeah, yeah,
Noble
yeah.
Court. Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions for Director Zan? Okay, so next on the agenda is executive session. So I'm sorry, I have to ask the people to step out. Just vote, and we need to vote, yeah. Go ahead.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss the compensation of a public employee.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, Eddie Colbert.
Cobb,
Aye.
Huda,
Aye.
Petrus.
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Russell. Posh.
Aye.
Okay, all right, we are back from committee of the whole. If there's anybody out there. Councilman Tosh,
I'm okay if we do this next week, our
okay,
next meeting.
I mean, that's what I was gonna ask you,
Do
but
it.
I didn't wanna wait, I wanted to wait until we came back because I'm looking at the time and I wanna give everybody at least a 2-minute break before we go back, yes.
I know you didn't have a photo number, but I
Yeah.
would like to ask if there's, I can get at least one council person to support me in what Harley Rubin asked us on August 23rd to support the resolution establishing Cleveland Heights as a sanctuary for members of transgender and gender diverse communities. I'm just at the very beginning of this, so I'm
Okay,
just looking to see if I get support from anybody.
Of course, so.
I'll sign on as well.
Here, here.
Cause am I okay, does it need to go to committee, or can I send it to Bill with the data that I have, or?
This is a resolution, right?
Yes.
So you don't have to say it.
Yeah,
According
you-
to our.
yeah, you don't, but by the same token, if you wanted it to go through committee, and I don't even know what committee.
Share updates in committee of the whole.
Oh,
Yeah,
Well, yeah, we could committee of the whole.
okay, Bill?
Sure.
All right. So with no further business for committee of the whole, this meeting is adjourned.